The way Rocco Becht is being talked about, I'm not sure if we should be legitimately concerned or elated. Either way, I think it leads to an Iowa State win against Iowa, and we're talking about why today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for being here every single day and making this your first watch or listen of the day. I appreciate it more than you know. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcasting platform, be sure to hit subscribe so we can prove once and for all that it is, in fact, say it with me, a Cyclone state. That's exactly right. It is Cyhawk week, so it feels like it's more important now than ever. Speaking of, today we're going to be talking about the quarterback who is going to be the victor of the Cyhawk game this upcoming weekend, Rocco Becht. We'll also talk about the tight ends a little bit. Really what we're getting at here is AsTaylor Mouser and Matt Campbell had some media availability, and I thought they talked the most about Rocco and the tight end groups. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And to round out today's show, we're going to go position by position. I got a little bit of feedback, we'll say, about yesterday's show and my thoughts on the secondary. That's what I have in store for the third segment is going to shock you. So stick around for that. Honestly, it's a lot of fun what I've got kind of cooked up there. So can't wait to dive into all that. But first, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Rocco Becht is the guy, and we've known this. We had the conversation yesterday of, is this a legacy game? And there were some comments like, look, he's already kind of top two. Like he's there. It's just whether or not you prefer him at one or not. And have you seen enough, which I think is completely fair. I think that's completely right. I think we can all agree that Iowa State has a absolute weapon in Rocco Becht, period, point blank, right? We know he's great in the clutch. We know he's unbelievable throughout the course of the game. He makes solid decisions. He does have some turnovers here and there, but for the most part, I think is to say he's a top 5 quarterback in college football too big of a stretch? I don't think so. I think he's right on that line. I absolutely think he has slept on to the point where I'm okay with saying that. I think that it's just that nobody's really familiar with his game yet. And over the course of the next, few weeks of the season, and then as we get closer to the draft, what's gonna happen there is as he becomes evaluated, there is going to be a lot of like, why wasn't anybody paying attention to this guy? Rocco is that good. Absolutely. I think we're all on the same page there. And AsTaylor Mouser had some words about Rocco. So did Matt Campbell. We'll start here because I think that this is going to be one of the keys to Iowa State's victory is how well does Rocco play? A few quotes from Mouser's media availability yesterday. He said, I can't say enough about how hard the kid works and how much the details and margins mean to that guy, how much the community means to that guy, how much his teammates mean to that guy. Seems like a lot of kind of repetition here, but I see where he's coming from. He said, so he's one of the most selfless people that we've ever had here. He wants to win for everybody besides himself, ironically. And I think that's what makes him really special in a time in college football where that doesn't happen very much. That right there almost says enough, right? Like it's the mindset of Rocco Becht that Mouser is highlighting here that not very many people are going to get to see. What he's basically saying is what you see out on the field is great. Like he performs. He's able to play the game of football, but it's what's between the ears that sets Rocco apart. And we're not really seeing what makes Rocco very much across college football right now. That is exciting. And we've known this, right? Like this is not like new news to you or to I. It's just a little encouraging to hear that. And if you are new and you haven't hit subscribe yet, it's completely free. This is pretty standard, right? We all know that Rocco's kind of wired this way. Arguably one of the greatest leaders Iowa State's had. I think a lot of people would argue maybe Bo Freeler from last season even. Just Iowa State is kind of packed with this sort of culture, which is awesome, right? That is one of my favorite things about Iowa State football. But he does go on to say a little bit more, Coach Mouser does, and this is where it starts to get a little bit electric. He says, honestly, like Rocco is I think he's a psychopath more than people think. Even you watch the start of the K-State game, that guy's better when all the air is sucked out of the stadium. Everybody can barely see and stand up and is about to puke. That guy's just nails. Bars. first off. But he does continue on to say the more we put on that guy's plate, the better he is. The easier we try to make it for him for whatever reason, it's not. He's better with his back against the wall. Like, the guy's just nuts, you know? And I love him, and he's great, and I die for him. First off, that's the relationship you want between your OC and your quarterback, like that type of mindset. That is a really good trait to have, and I think that's something that Iowa State can start to exploit the rest of this season. The thought that you can push Rocco to his limits and he doesn't actually fall off. He rises to the moment. He meets the expectation and potentially even exceeds it, gets the job done type of guy. That is a really good thing for Iowa State to have in their back pocket. And Mouser does talk about in this presser, and not necessarily something I'm exactly going to talk about here, but I am going to tie it in when kind of asked about what he learned from last season and what he's kind of progressing in as far as a offensive play caller. He learned a little bit of like, sometimes you can't really just methodically work your way down the field. The way I thought of it is it's not Madden or I guess college football 26, right? Like, I can't just call stretch strong over and over and over and get those 3 yards and methodically work our way down the field. Not that he's saying he's calling the same plays over and over, but that's kind of how I play college football. It makes me a little boring, but it's because I'm not a gamer. I apologize. Getting a little off track here, but the point is he kind of leans into this thought of we can take shots. We can take risks. You're not always going to be able to put together this 9.5-minute drive where it's 50 pass, 50 run, and it's 3-4 yard gains the whole way, or eating up clock, which is awesome. That's a great drive when you're up by 6, with 10 to go in the fourth. Like, that's exactly what you want from an offense. That would be perfect, right? That, like, ideally, that's the best thing. But that's not going to be every single drive. And it sounds like Mouser realizes, like, we can, like, start games off with a deep shot to Brett Eskelson, which he does talk about that specific play in this presser, but you understand the thought, the idea of stretching the field, of maybe taking a few risks. That only really works if your quarterback is able to rise to that occasion. And it sounds like, well, we know this, Rocco is able to do that. And so just from what Taylor Mouser or Mouse or Coach Mouser or whatever you want to call him is saying here, I think we are going to see some relatively uncharacteristic Iowa State football play this weekend. Shocker. Like, actually a little bit. Like, I think this is a really exciting presser. If you go listen to it, just kind of reading in between the lines, what I'm picking up on as far as Rocco goes is we're going to potentially try some things that are a little risky, but Rocco can handle them. Does that mean we're going to be taking crazy shots down the field? Maybe, maybe not. Who's it to? Is it to a tight end? Is it to a wide receiver? We'll talk about that a little bit. Chase Sowell was mentioned a few times yesterday. Brett Eskelson, I think, is a dog, right? We've talked about that guy over and over. Obviously, the game against Kansas State, the game against South Dakota, the kid shows up. Kid's able to make plays. And I think that if the South Dakota game went a little bit differently, we could have seen him use a little bit more, but it was just like weirdly perfect the way that game went, 19 of 20. Not quite perfect, but really close to it. And so I expect to see kind of the same thing from Eskelson here, and maybe another kind of usage of Xavier Townsend. Like, we don't really know what to expect from this offense, which I do think is a great kind of card in Iowa State's back pocket, is kind of the unpredictability and the ability to spread the ball across the entire offense. But I wonder if we'll start to see some uncharacteristic, I think is probably the best way to say it, plays from Iowa State in this one. Will it be too risky? I couldn't tell you right now. Will Rocco rise up to the occasion? Will it just be forced? I hope it won't be. I don't think it will be. I do think, though, that this is not going to be your typical Taylor Mouser game. That's the way that this came off to me, which is exciting a little bit, isn't it? I think that that's really cool. I think that there's the potential for something that would really spark some life into Iowa State for the rest of this season. I wonder if this game is being treated as a little bit of like this is a very good opponent. This is a rivalry game, yes. But what if we come out here and try a few things and see what this offense is capable of before we end up in, a situation where we have to win this conference game, or else it's, do or die, right? Like, I wonder I wonder. I think it's very realistically possible. I think that's definitely something that could happen. So let me know. What do you think down below in the comments or at Nick_Marvel on Twitter? I read all of your guys' tweets or posts at me. You guys are the best. I appreciate it all. Let's talk a little bit about the tight ends room because Rocco's got to throw to somebody. And there are some crazy statistics coming out about Iowa State and this whole tight end room. So we'll talk about that coming up here right after this. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. Mazda offers more than safety. It's one more 2025 IIHS top safety pick plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. Whether it's a quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes even everyday drives feel special. It's the small details that make the big plays. And just like that, there's more to every player. There's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Rocco Becht, star quarterback, period. End of story. I think we're all on the same page there. However, who's he throwing to? That was the conversation all off season long. No Knoll, no Higgins. Where is this ball going to get slung through the air to? Who is going to receive the ball? Because it's only worth something if it's caught. Can't throw the ball 85 yards downfield and just say, look how far I threw it. That's worth something, right? No, you can't. Someone's got to go catch it. So who's going to do that for Iowa State? Well, the answer from myself all off season long here at Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, was it's got to be the tight ends. It's obvious. It's the tight ends. Look out for Sowell and Townsend, but the tight ends are going to be a major part of this. Seems like we were pretty much right on the nose with that one. PFF released some statistics that were just ridiculous. Out of the 144 plays of offense that Iowa State has clocked this season, this is per the PFF Iowa State Iowa breakdown that I was watching, 4 plays have contained 2 or less, one or less tight ends. So 140 of the 144 have had 2 or more. Whoa, that is a lot. And I believe Iowa State was leading the country in 2+ tight end, basically plays, right? Formations or whatever, percentage in 2+ tight end formations. They basically took Iowa's spot. Okay. And that, I think, is a relatively important statistic. I think that that's going to throw a little bit of a wrench in what Iowa is used to. However, that doesn't mean that the wide receivers are going away. Like, do not think that they're going away. It's just an added wrinkle, an added advantage, in my opinion, to Iowa State's arsenal, the way that this offense is able to operate. Matt Campbell had a few kind of quotes on these tight ends here, saying that I think their skill set is so multiple in what they can do. And we've always said, I think the elite tight ends, if you look at the National Football League, boy, they aren't just great receivers. They're great blockers. They're great pass blockers. They've got the ability to do all the things well. That's why tight end, in my opinion, is one of the hardest positions in football to play, because you have to acquire so many great fundamentals and skills to be able to be an elite player at that position. Kind of had to lock into my Matt Campbell thought process there. He speaks in I love the way he speaks. It's just not how I speak, probably because we're two different people. Whew, really breaking news here, Locked On Cyclones today. But there is something to that. And I think that this can be almost repositioned when talking about Iowa State. It's not really repositioned, but just kind of to add context to it, how Iowa State is using these tight ends. You're seeing them split out wide. You're seeing them brought inside. You're seeing 13, 14 personnel where it's not really sure if it's a run or a pass, because they are so versatile in the pass game and so honestly kind of utilized in the pass game that it's like, well, I guess I can't guarantee that they're going to run, even though this is a formation that would generally be extremely run heavy just because of the amount of tight ends on the field. Like that seems to make the most sense. But then all of a sudden you've got Benjamin Brahmer on a pop pass down the middle of the field. See you later, right? Or you're motioning out of, a 5 wide to the right of the center split him out into the slot, say, huh, and all of a sudden we've got ourselves a slot fade or maybe even a bubble or slant or whatever. You get the point. These guys can kind of do it all. I think that they set Iowa State's offense apart. When talking about the tight ends, AsTaylor Mouser said that more than anything, those guys are some of the most trusted people we have on the offense to go do whatever they get asked to do. And they're some of the most selfless people we have on the team. Obviously, Rocco in there as well. He says that it gives you quite a bit of flexibility when talking about like planning for this offense. More than anything, I think those guys are some of our most trusted guys. Yes. We could be really multiple with how we want to line up and take some heat off of other guys with those guys and be able to do some different stuff. That is kind of what I've said about the tight ends and linebackers all offseason long, is this concept of being the Swiss Army knife, right? Like the tight end or the linebacker is kind of like the center of the Venn diagram for either the offense or the defense. You can kind of think of it in a way, for the defense, let's start there and then we'll translate it over. Just to rehash out my thought process here. The defensive line is kind of like the run stop. You've got to kind of play along with me here. And the secondary is kind of like the pass stop, if you will. Okay. I understand that everything is woven together, but the concept being that the linebackers are right in the middle and they directly affect both. They can drop into zone or they can blitz and rush the passer. The exact opposite is true in a way, I suppose, because it's opposite side of the ball of the tight end. The tight end can block for the run or go out for a pass, as opposed to, obviously the line or the running back or the wide receivers, whose job are generally, obviously the offensive line a little bit trickier, but predominantly based on one side of the ball. Like running backs, most of the time used for running the ball. Not every offense, not every running back, but you get the point, right? That, I think, is what Mouser is throwing out here, is what Iowa State tight ends are best at. That it's that Venn diagram of sometimes you're going to have tight ends who can really only block. Like they're glorified linemen. It's not very common. And generally, I would say it's more common that you have tight ends that can only receive. They just can't really block very well. But either way, you get both ends of the spectrum. Iowa State tight ends right now are very, very good at both, which opens up the possibilities like crazy. And I will say, I wanted to throw this in here. In this media availability, there was a question that I didn't necessarily love. I'm going to be honest. And I'm bringing this up a little bit out of nowhere because I want to make sure we talk about it. I don't know who it was. There's no cameras on anybody, and there's no text at the bottom saying who's asking these questions. But somebody asked, do you, for those, tight end dump or pop pass plays, do you like hold on to that and wait till the end of the game so you can like kind of, I don't remember exactly how he asked it, but like basically try to fool them or make them forget or whatever. And I was like, maybe we don't give away that information. Maybe we just like don't say that. Maybe we kind of like direct away from that a little bit. And he pretty much was like, yeah, we kind of do that. And I was like, just from my own perspective, like I get it. It still doesn't really give away a whole lot, but I didn't love that. But speaking on that tight end dump pop pass type of play, he did say it's some of it's a feel thing. Who do we trust most in the game? Burkle is one of the most trusted people. I feel like between Rocco and Gabe, if he puts the ball in the vicinity, something good is going to happen. That is good. That is a good quality kind of or mindset to have around that situation, because I do think that that's a play that's tough to stop. And I think that's a play that Iowa State, if used correctly, can kind of use to expose Iowa's defense a little bit. And that just, it's a testament to Rocco and the tight ends. I just did not necessarily love the question. I'm going to be completely real with you. And that's just why I guess I'm here in my studio. So nonetheless, let me know, what do you think? Is Rocco or the tight end group going to be the key to the victory for Iowa State in this one? I don't know. You'll have to stick around to find out. We're going to go position by position. Which school has the edge in this one, and how big of a role will they play? We're talking about that coming up right here after this. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. And I mean it. You cannot miss this one. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Wild number. 300. FanDuel makes every game more exciting. Whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, it's quick, it's easy, it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. Something about those $300. That is a lot. So, are you ready to play? Download your FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Today's episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table, not where it needs to be. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, and you can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I can't tell you just how clutch Monarch Money has been with this new apartment behind me, managing my money, keeping things, all my ducks in a row. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. That's use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Let's go ahead and go position by position through the Cyhawk game, because at the end of the day, this is going to come down to the super nitty gritty. This is going to come down to whether the blade of grass was blowing left or right due to the swirl inside of Jack Trice Stadium. This is going to come down to whether or not everyone is coloring it cardinal. That's how close I think this is going to be. Not because of the two teams. Don't be ridiculous. Iowa State is significantly better than Iowa. No, because this is the Cyhawk rivalry. Okay, because of how really, I was going to say close these games generally are. It has nothing to do with that. It is only because of the fact that I firmly believe that these rivalry games become the teams are effectively even. When these two teams hit the field, when any two strong rivalry teams hit the field, there is so much emotional charge in every one of these players, in every one of these fans, in these coaches, everyone surrounding the game, the week leading up. The cashier checking you out at your local coffee shop even. I mean, it's everywhere. It just null and voids the entire thing. That being said, when it does that, when it squishes it down to this tiny, tiny little pancake, right? What is a crepe? To a crepe. Now we have to look at position by position and go, where can Iowa State get the edge, right? Because it's no longer like, well, if Iowa State is significantly better here, they're going to win. No, that's not how it works. That's just not how it works. I think if Iowa State can get a few of these position groups built up as a big, like, okay, we're better at all of these, I think that could play a role. So let's go position by position here. And let's start with the defense. Let's get a little bit tricky. This is reminiscent of what we did against Kansas State. So if you remember that, I think it leaned Iowa State, or it was 50-50, and Iowa State came away with that one. It was like a coin toss. Let's just see if we can keep on track and stick with the good vibes, or see if we can stay accurate, I guess, is maybe even a better call. Okay, let's start with the secondary and work our way in. Secondary, I think Iowa State is better, and this is the nuke that I was going to drop on you guys. I have had a lot to say over the last few days about Iowa State secondary, and I am completely aware of that. Okay? This is like the same thing we were talking about all offseason, which it was actually the secondary that was pretty much at the point of emphasis in these conversations was, well, I think that they're going to be not great in comparison to the rest of the Iowa State team, but I still think they're going to be really good. It's all about levels. It's all about in comparison to another thing. if you were to say Iowa State, the secondary for Iowa State is as bad as a couple of statues, like that would be terrible. But if you were to say that Iowa State's secondary is as bad as the worst secondary in the NFL, like, well, that's probably a pretty good secondary, wouldn't you say, in comparison to other college teams. So in comparison to the rest of the Iowa State team, the rest of the Iowa State position groups, I think the secondary is probably where Iowa State is lacking the most. And I do genuinely have a little bit of concern for this position group. That being said, in comparison to Iowa, I think Iowa State has the better secondary. And I get it. There's not a ton to really go off of for Iowa, and Iowa does generally, over the course of history, have a better defense, relatively speaking. I don't think I saw it against Albany. Is that the end-all, be-all? Is that all the evidence that can be provided? Well, it's all that I can have right now, but over the course of the season, no. Like, that defense will probably get better. They'll probably play better teams, and they'll probably do different things against different groups. But from what I saw against Albany, there were a few positions that they were put in. There were a few drives at Albany. I thought, okay, I think Iowa State's got the edge here. Just me. I am by no means an Iowa football pundit or analyst or really anything even close to that. And I pride myself on that. I'm here with the Cyclones. I think Iowa State's got a lot of talent in the secondary. I just want to see them cover the deep end of the field. That's really my only concern with this secondary. I think that they've done a great job over the course of the first 2 weeks. Just need to see them preventing the deep balls. That's really what it comes down to. Linebacker. So Iowa State 1, Iowa 0 from the secondary perspective. Linebackers, I think it's Iowa State by far, not even like relatively close. It's not even really worth having this deep of a conversation over. Iowa State has ridiculous top-end talent and ridiculous depth. We've talked about this over and over. It's on tons of shows. If you haven't watched them already, go back. I'm not going to talk your ear off about the linebackers. It's like Iowa State, in my opinion, has one of the best linebacking cores in the entire nation, let alone against Iowa. Pretty self-explanatory. Defensive line. This is where it gets tricky because Iowa State has performed ridiculously well against the run, yet at the same time almost dead last against the pass as far as pass rush goes. So I think I'm probably going to give the edge to Iowa here. I don't think it's as close or as big of a blowout as the linebacker position group is, but I think that their line is probably a little bit better. And that is solely because of the fact that Iowa State has not been able to put together a solid pass rush in this game. If Dom Orange takes over, if Tuamatoa McDonough takes over, if Ike takes over and is able to create havoc in the backfield and put pressure on Gronowski consistently, that's enough to flip it, in my opinion. That's how I'm kind of going about grading this position. I think it leans Iowa because if Iowa State were to make a splash in that position group, it would shock kind of how this game is supposed to go. If the linebackers for Iowa State go nuts, that's just kind of like what they do. So that's why they have the edge, if that makes sense. So I think through the defense, Iowa State leads it 2-1. Secondary and linebackers, I think they've got it. Defensive line, probably not. Let's switch over to the offense. Or boy, oh boy, I think we walk away with this one. Okay. Running backs, it's Iowa State. It just is. Hanson, Sama, are you kidding me? I don't even think it's close. I think Lee even probably beats out a few of Iowa's running backs. Not even close. Tight ends, why are we even having this conversation? It's not even within a country mile. It's not even, we're not having this conversation. Tight ends, Iowa State. The offensive line, I haven't really seen a lot out of Iowa State's offensive line. Just obviously, we've seen Rocco kind of running for his life, but we've also seen dominance against Kansas State in the fourth quarter. So how do you really weigh that? I guess with the inconsistency, I will give something to Iowa on the offensive side of the ball. Just anything, I guess, at this point, because we all know we put him last, but Rocco is, Rocco. So Iowa State takes quarterback position as well. So I guess by that count, Iowa technically has both sides of the trenches. if they dominate both of those sides, I still think Iowa State can get away with it. I do. I think we are better in a way and in a big enough gap across the rest of the board. I guess I didn't even mention the Iowa State wide receivers. I think we're better there as well. Townsend and Sowell really haven't seen the rock that much. I think Overby, I think Eskelson going to make a big difference. Eli Green. I think we have top end talent there too. So it's literally just the offensive and defensive line. And that can totally tear a game to shreds. I'm not saying that it doesn't matter, but I think Iowa State has so much talent everywhere that there's a chance that it really becomes a bit of a moot point. What do you think? I don't know. That's just my opinion. And I don't really give them much on the offensive line, to be completely honest. So I think that maybe that'll kind of be a null and void point as well. Let me know in the comments down below or at Nick_Marv on Twitter. Be sure to subscribe. We're proving it to Cyclone State. We're racking up these YouTube numbers. We're racking up the Twitter numbers. I appreciate every one of you guys engaging. I love conversing about Cyclone football and basketball as it's coming up down the pipe here, up and down the pipe in just a few months. Cannot wait for this game this upcoming weekend. Until next time, Cyclone fans, stay safe out there. Roll Clones. Sign.